Good evening, everybody, and thanks for joining us on our second local convene. We had our first one earlier today around lunchtime. Michael will go into this a little bit more in depth later on, but we are in the process of completing our four-year plan update, which includes taking a look at what partnerships in the community that we can make in order to improve our services to the clients that we serve. And one of the areas that was specified by the state was, of course, child support services. So we're really excited to see our folks from child support services here tonight, and for us to get to know what you do better. I think we have an inkling of what you do, but it would be nice to see kind of an in-depth presentation that I guess we'll have to get later. And we're looking forward to seeing where we can partner and better serve our shared customers. So again, thank you all for being here, and I'm going to turn it over to Michael, and he'll explain a little bit more about what our role in this is.
Thank you. First of all, like Teresa said, thank you all very much for coming to this forum. This is actually brought to you by the Kern Mono Workforce Development Board, just to throw in a joke there. My name is Michael Saltz, and I work for Employers Trading Resource. Before I start the forum today, I kind of wanted to remind everyone that as Teresa said, we've already started the forums. We have, or last month, we talked about the regional forums, and we had two, and we have two more coming up in the end of this month and into December. We also, this morning, we had a local planning forum that dealt with improving services for individuals with disabilities. The topic for this planning session is strengthening partnerships with child support services to serve the non-custodial parent population. So on November 8th, we have two more additional forums that we'd appreciate your attendance. One topic dealing with developing workforce system partnerships with CalFresh employment and training programs. And the second is relative to developing strategies to strengthen services to the English language learners, foreign-born individuals, and refugees. So you should have received this handout relative to the upcoming forums, including the regional forums that are on the right-hand side in blue, and the light blue, and the remaining local forums in the dark blue, and we would hope that you all would attend. The board values your input and appreciates your attendance at these local planning forums. So let me start off. One of the things that you'll see on the PowerPoint, it says building and sustaining successful workforce partnerships, and that's really what this is about. So we want to make sure that, as Teresa had indicated, that we're providing the best services to our mutual clients as possible. And so that's what this will help us do, is to be able to learn more about what child support services does and how that can help out with not only in our community, but also with braiding services through the Workforce Center, or the HACCs. So for those of you who attended earlier, I apologize if this is redundant, but some of you are new, so I want to make sure that you understand why we're doing this. So under the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act, which we call WIOA, each local workforce development board was required to prepare and submit a local plan to the California Workforce Development Board, which is the state board. And it was for program years 2017 through 2020, which actually is 2017 through 2021. That was consistent with the state plan, which is the controlling state policy guidelines for the local workforce plan. The primary purpose of the local workforce plan is to ensure access to the workforce services at the local level, where services will be integrated, resources braided, and supportive services provided to individuals being served by the WIOA partners. primarily operating at the Americans Job Center of California, what we call the AJCC system, which was formerly known as the One Stop Career Center, but potentially through using other partners as well, we hope to be able to provide services to the customers that are needed. In addition, the local workforce plans are required to ensure that a baseline level of WIOA core programs alignment compliant with federal regulations at the local level in and through the AJCCs, or the American Job Center of California, the state one-stop system, so that the core programs and mandated services are coordinated and, when possible, integrated to make accessible a menu of customized services available to customers on the basis of their need. In preparing the local workforce plan, the local boards were required to consider alternative ways to provide services and the necessary support to guarantee success and access to members of the populations with barriers to employment to ensure that they move through the system seamlessly. On March 13th of 2017, the Kern Mono Workforce Development Board submitted its local workforce plan ahead of the deadline of March 15, 2017. The state board approved the local workforce plan on September 1st, 2017. And if any of you would like a copy of that plan, either the regional plan or the local plan, please feel free to email me at saltm@kerncounty.com, and I'd be more than glad to provide you with a copy. As we start today, under the WIOA, a biennial update of the local plans is required in order to ensure plans remain current and account for changes in labor market conditions or other factors affecting implementation of the local plan. In addition, the state board has made changes to the state plan, which requires that the local boards update their plans to keep them consistent with the policies directive of the state plan. It'll be submitted in in fact, it's due March 15th of 2019, and the modifications will be addressing the following mandatory topics. One, improving services to individuals with disabilities through competitive integrated employment. As I indicated earlier, we held that session earlier today. Right now, I'm going to be talking about strengthening partnerships with local child support agencies to serve non-custodial parents. On the 8th of November, we're going to be talking about developing workforce system partnerships with CalFresh Employment and training programs. And also on the 8th in the afternoon, we're going to be talking about development of strategies to strengthen services to English language learners, foreign-born individuals, and refugees. And there's one optional topic that will be included both in the regional and local plan, and that's the modification and updates to the existing plan based on changes of labor market or economic conditions or other factors. One of the things that I indicated earlier today at the earlier convening is that when we prepared the first plan, when I say first plan 2 years ago, the local plan, the economic condition of the state was completely different. Unemployment rate was significantly higher. And so the state wanted us to look at, as I would call it, low-hanging fruit. So the local plan that you'll see talks about trying to reduce barriers for individuals that had difficulty in getting jobs, but they were more, as I call it, the low-hanging fruit. So what the state wants us to do now is look at the higher, or the higher fruit in the tree, and to try to help out individuals that have barriers, that are having more difficulty in getting jobs. And they're doing that because the unemployment rate now is, for the state, is a lot less than what it was 2 years ago. So with regards to today's convening, through the state guidance, the state board has entered into a formal partnership agreement with the California Department of Child Support Services, what they call DCSS. The agreement has the goal of improving labor market outcomes for the unemployed, underemployed, and payment delinquent non-custodial parents. The vision of the DCSS is that all parents are engaged in supporting their children. This is achieved through the delivery of services including establishing paternity, locating parents, establishing child and medical support orders, enforcing and modifying child and medical support orders, and collecting and dispersing child support payments. The local workforce plan must specify how local boards will engage with and work with the local child support agency and specific other partners to serve their local non-custodial parent population to improve labor market outcomes for, as I said, unemployed, underemployed, and payment delinquent non-custodial parents. So with this, we do appreciate your input. I'm going to talk about our guest speaker from Child Support Services, Stacy Wirtz. Received her bachelor's degree in philosophy from California State University, Bakersfield. She currently works for the Kern County Child Support Services. During her 18 years with the department, she has held several positions and worked in a wide variety of areas throughout the department. Over the past 11 years, she has served in the position of program manager over areas ranging from case opening, establishment, enforcement, and staff development. She is passionate about developing people to their best selves and believes in the importance of educating, engaging, and encouraging customers throughout the child support process. And while her mic is being put on, I just want to give a couple of special thanks. One, I want to thank our marketing department, because without our marketing department, we would not be able to provide the handouts that we've given you this evening. In addition, I want to thank Marco for being so helpful to us with regards to being able to record this event so we could put it on the Workforce Development Board. As you know, we're very appreciative you're coming after hours, and that's mandated by the state to have at least one convening after 5 o'clock. And a lot of people who can't make it will be able to view this on our website. So without Marco, that wouldn't be able to occur. In addition, I also want to thank the library, the Beale Library. Andy Sullivan, who's the director of the library, has been very gracious to us to allow us to use the facilities in order to have these regional and local planned convenings. So without further ado, Stacy, here you go.
Thank you. Absolutely. You ready to go? Awesome. Well, thank you. My name is Stacy Wirtz. I am a program manager with the Kern County Department of Child Support Services. And we are really grateful that the Workforce Development Board has really engaged us in this process. And we really look forward to being able to share our information with you about who it is, who we are, and look forward to the information that you have to provide for us, because we're really interested in helping our families be able to help their children and serving, and be able to provide their support for their children. So with that is a partnership. So we really do appreciate that. In this presentation, we'll talk a little bit about who we are, the customers that we serve, the challenges that we have identified that they might have to receiving child support services, some of the obstacles that we have as an agency in order to be able to serve our customers, and we look forward to that input that you have from your experiences working with non-custodial parents on how we can provide our services a bit better. The core purpose of the Department of the Child Support Services is to help families create a better life for children. We do that through multiple ways, helping families, building trust, effective and respectful communication, consistent quality of work through teamwork and innovative approaches are some of the values that we demonstrate both internally with our staff as well as with our customers. In order to do this successfully, we have to use a holistic approach. We are all subject matter experts in the organizations that we are in and in the work that we do. But in order to help families who have very complex lives, we need to be able to work together succinctly in order to be able to to overcome barriers that our families have. Here at the department, what we have a mission statement is we deliver outstanding child support services so all children receive the financial and medical resources for their well-being. And Michael talked a little bit about some of the purpose of the Department of Child Support Services in that we work with families to establish child support orders. We help families enforce those orders, and along the way, those orders, as families change, as people get jobs, as people lose jobs, as their economics change, they're also eligible to have their orders modified. And we help families all through that time be able to support their children in those ways. On some level, we work with families to navigate the legal system as we're establishing orders for them. And then we serve as a financial support for families in that how much money is owed, how much money is paid, what is the accounts that are associated with those particular orders. And then on some level also work with families to be able to work together and collaborate together to support their children. Let's talk a little bit about our caseloads. Right now in September of 2018, we have an ongoing active caseload of over 51,000 families. So those are families that have cases in our office that we are currently working with to either establish or enforce their orders. As you can see by the graph, 28% of those families are currently receiving assistance. Those are families who are actively receiving TANF benefits through the Department of Human Services. Another 55% of families are formally assisted, which means that in the past they've received TANF benefits. So they're not currently aided, but they were on aid at some point in their lives. So for these families, that's 86%, 83% of families who are currently or have been on assistance at some point. So for these families, having consistent monthly child support payments becomes a real safety net for them in order to either become self-sufficient, be able to provide for themselves, be able to provide for their children. The other 16% are never assisted families, so they have not formally received benefits from the Department of Human Services under the TANF program, but they may actually be receiving CalFresh, maybe on Medi-Cal services, maybe income ineligible for some reason. These families also need our services, that consistent monthly child support payments, to avoid having to go on public assistance at all. So for each of these families, their dependence upon having reliable income into their homes becomes really important for the support. We're going to talk specifically about non-custodial parents. Child support's a little bit different in that most organizations, most agencies, most employers, you are providing a service to a customer coming into your organization. They've applied for your services, they want your goods, and they come into your organization asking for those. And they're either eligible or they pay for their goods and services, and you provide that to them the best that you know how. In child support, we actually have two families. We have two customers. We have the one who has applied for our services. In most instances, that's the custodial parent. But in other instances, it's the non-custodial parent. That person didn't really want your services necessarily, but they have a case open for them too. And so we serve both parents supporting their families. So we're in a little difficult of it's a different kind of challenge that the organization faces. While most of our non-custodial parents are men, 84% of them are men. There are 13% who are female, and that is growing over time. We're seeing more and more moms who are non-custodial parents. And also, and when we talk about these non-custodial parents and some of the challenges that we have, in running some reports recently, any idea about who the youngest non-custodial parent is? Like who the youngest person might be? Any ideas?
18 years old.
18? We have one person right now who's 13 years old. Any idea for how the oldest non-custodial parent? Any ideas? 60s? 88 years old. So our customers range from 13 years old to 88 years old. And they have families, and they're dynamic. And they have, so we as a Department of Child Support Services have to be very creative in how we talk with our 13-year-old non-custodial parents versus how we're going to talk to our 88-year-old non-custodial parents, and everybody in between with all the technology and the services, where they're at in their lives, what their needs are dynamic and changing, and we have to be responsive to those particular needs. In looking at ethnicity, we have 44% of our non-custodial parents are Hispanic, while another 28% are white, 18% Black, other. And they are all over Kern County. Child Support Services people all over this the county, obviously. The most populous place is Bakersfield with 24,000 people. Delano is next in line, Wasco, Shafter, Ridgecrest, some of the bigger cities that you would expect. The department also services people who live all over California. So we have families who live all throughout California. We have interstate cases with other states. So some families live apart, in multiple states. And so we deal with people from Alaska to Hawaii to Maine, everywhere. We even have 9 international cases because child support also is, there are agreements with other countries for us to provide services. And we have about 6 or 7 cases with Australia. So we're all over the place. One of the things we were asked to do as part of this, as part of our description of working with the plan, was to describe some barriers experienced by the child support program participants in your local area, including potential barriers faced by people with disabilities. In preparing this, we were looking at what are some of the things that people might have trouble with, and one of them is accessing our office. People's lives are very busy. Childcare issues, transportation issues, 9 to 5. We want people to work. We're only open 8 to 5. So how do people actually access our services? And we know that can be a barrier for some of our customers. We're available by phone, so people don't actually have to leave the comforts of their home or their work. We also have 2 office locations, one in the Bakersfield office, and what you see up here on the North Select Avenue is actually our newest location that we're getting ready to move to effective January 2nd. We'll be open to the public at our new site. In Ridgecrest, we also have a branch office there as well to serve people in the East Kern areas because we know that can be a challenge for people living in those areas. After hours, though, we've looked for a variety of ways because we have people from 18 to 88, or from 13 to 88. We have to be able to provide lots of ways for people to access our services outside of those areas, those time frames. So we have information available on our website, Facebook, through the State Department of Child Support Services website. We also have mobile apps available where people can open cases, look for payments, see how much money has come in on their cases, additional information and resources that might be needed. So we try to provide information, both resources about child support as well as other agencies also, where people would have access to that information 24/7. Through our Customer Connect website, customers can actually submit questions. So if you are at home at 2 o'clock in the morning, you have a question about your child support case, you can submit your questions to us from the convenience of your own home, and you'll get a response the next day. For people who are non-W-2 wage earners and who are going to be making payments in different ways, we also have MoneyGram and Pay Near Me, which allows for people to make payments at 7-Elevens, CVS's, because people have money in all different ways. They may not be regular W-2 wage earners, and we want to be able to provide them opportunities to make their payments. And MoneyGram and Pay Near Me are available nationwide, so they don't have to be in Kern County next to a Department of Child Support Services. They can do it throughout the states. We also know that's not enough. that people want to be able to talk to someone live, face to face. And so we take opportunities as often as we can to provide those direct services face to face. And we've been partnering with the Family Resource Centers to do that on a monthly basis. We go out to different communities throughout Kern County to talk with our custodial and non-custodial parents about their cases. Currently we have them set up for Delano, Shafter, and Lamont, and we've been going out there, and we have one coming up this month, now this is the 1st of November, in Taft. So really trying to get out there into the community and being able to, so they don't have to travel to us. Let me go back one. Another place that we also have people we're available is the Family Justice Center, the Kern County Family Justice Center. We know at times of crisis when people are subject to domestic abuse, that there's also financial dependency, and it becomes a barrier for people who are trying to escape domestic violence. So at the Family Justice Center here in Kern County, we also have a video conferencing kiosk available for families who are seeking additional services and resources where they could talk directly to a child support officer about opening a case that's currently existing, and helping those families as well. Even in prison, we can help you out. We are in the Lerdo Detention Facility. We've partnered with the Kern County Sheriff's Office and are grateful to have a great presence there. This is our kiosk, video conferencing kiosk, where inmates who have child support orders because life happens and parents go in and out of custody, that we can actually talk with them about their orders and modify them if necessary. In addition to being available to inmates, we also do weekly presentations. So some families don't know of our services, and so we provide weekly presentations there as well. And then as often as possible, we also work with other agencies throughout Kern County to provide and to be present in the community to provide services where people are already going to be. So we partner with Veteran Stand Down and have child support officers there at Homeless Court, and in addition, partnering with the Bakersfield Safe Streets Partnership during their gang call-ins. So members who are in a gang currently and are trying to make changes in their lives, we can talk with those non-custodial parents who might not necessarily walk into our building. Another challenge that we know can be a barrier for our non-custodial parents is language. For our Spanish-speaking customers, 44% of our customers are Hispanic of origin. We know that speaking Spanish is really important, and being able to provide services to customers in their language of choice becomes really important. We're talking about money, legal aspects, paternity, relationships, and that requires specialty in the language and not just necessarily an interpretation. At every point of contact with our department, we make every effort to make sure that customers have someone of Spanish speaking available to them. From the reception staff when people walk in, to the first contact resolution team, who is our interview. So if you walk into our agency, people can talk to you in Spanish. We have a Spanish speaking dedicated caseload. These are child support officers who speak Spanish, who reach out into the community to be able to provide services. So at every step of the way, if you're getting a phone call and you speak Spanish, your caseworker will be able to speak with you in your own language. The Customer Care Center is our call center, so if you call in with questions, we'll be able to assist you, and we even have Spanish-speaking attorneys who can help you out in court. So it's really important. We very much prize being able to speak to people in their own language. Most of the forms are also available in Spanish. And for other languages outside of Spanish, we have language line services available to us, and there are a variety of forms available in other languages, Hmong, Vietnamese, and some others. Another challenge is the last one that we've identified is consistent monthly child support payments. So for non-custodial parents to be successful, they need to pay every single month, all the time. Full child support payments every single month. But we know that there are barriers that people face as they, in addition to child support, that they need support holistically and not just with the Department of Child Support Services. Resources that are outside of our specialty. In the first floor of our lobby, and it will be in our lobby at our new building as well, we have a Kids Count Resource Center, which is about all resources outside of child support, about jobs, about shelters, about any type of information that someone who might need some additional information. We provide that directly to customers, and we have that information available to them. It's in the first floor lobby on purpose because it actually isn't just for child support customers, it's for anybody in the community who might need these resources. And there are frequently people who don't have child support cases who come in who utilize this resource to be able to access that information. You can't see it in this picture, but there's a bank of computers as well, so customers have access to the internet to be able to look at job sites. They get assistance with applications and resume writing and being able to submit that information. We hope through that partnership that it encourages non-custodial parents to have W-2 wage earning jobs, which will in turn make child support consistent monthly child support payments. In addition, for those our custodial parents as well, who we've already talked about are maybe income unstable, and we want to make sure they have the resources to be able to remain self-sufficient. For other legal matters, because sometimes child support becomes, paying consistent child support on a monthly basis becomes challenging because there might be some other legal issues that are happening in that family. There might be custody and visitation issues that are preventing people from either wanting to cooperate or wanting to pay. And we can refer them to the Family Law Facilitator's Office at the Superior Court. And they can also be helped with dissolution of marriage, as well as other legal actions that are outside of the scope of the Department of Child Support Services. So with that, those were three of the challenges that we saw as for helping customers. Are there any other barriers that you or your customers, your families that you've helped have seen with the department?
Is it specific to?
And I apologize. So if you're going to speak, I'm going to bring over a mic. Identify who you are. So the reason for that is because we dictate all of what goes on here for a record. So if you're going to identify your name and spell your last name,
Sure.
I appreciate it.
Okay, hi, I'm Tracy.
Hi.
I am the Human Resources Manager with Wind and Solar in Tehachapi. And my question about your question, actually, and keep the spell K-E-E-F-E. My question is, are you asking about barriers specific to Kern County or nationally, statewide? At what level are we asking?
I would love to know that at all the levels. If there's something that you've seen, as an employer, I would imagine there might be times where you're working with families that you have employed people who might be non-custodial parents. And if what your experience is, because if you've experienced that, other people may have experienced that. And if we can address that in some way, either through this plan or in other ways, we would love to be able to resolve that.
Okay, so that's helpful.
Great.
We have a really high volume of non-custodial parents that work with us. And one of the barriers I see, particularly with the NIMSMs, we just have, with the administrative, just the time it takes to thoroughly, accurately process one and make sure that the correct information is getting to the right place. It really does take the amount of time specified in the forms, which is obviously going to vary from company to company based on the volume of non-custodial parents. But for us, it's really a challenge to keep up with it.
Right. So the paperwork associated with being able to sign up specifically with the medical support order notices.
Yes, we have a great benefits package,
Right.
And we enroll people right away. But then after the enrollment, it's making sure that we are getting all of the information that's requested, whether it's the cards or the numbers, the policy numbers, the amounts being paid by the employee or the employer.
Right.
And there's a lot of information. So to do all of that for everyone that we get is really a challenge.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments? So I'll talk about one.
Absolutely.
One of the concerns that we have relative to, and we've talked about this outside of today, is that a lot of the individuals who are non-custodial parents lose their driver's license privileges when they don't pay child support. And as such, it makes it very difficult for them to be able to get employment because you need transportation to get there.
Right.
So what are you guys doing in terms of that to be able to resolve that issue?
Great. So for those of you who might not know, as we establish child support orders and we begin to enforce those orders, we take a wide variety of efforts to be able to continue to enforce those orders. Wage assignments automatically go out. So for some of those of you who are employers, those are an automatic requirement of the California. It's a part of the judicial forms that wage assignments will go out to any employer who has, when there's a child support order, it's actually a requirement. It's not a penalty against a non-custodial parent. It happens pretty much automatically. When those are not successful, when parents are not paying on a regular, monthly, consistent basis, there are activities that begin to happen to encourage payment. And one of those activities is a license suspension. And it's an opportunity to get someone's attention, to be able to then talk to them about what their circumstances are. If they're not making their current monthly child support payments, then it gives us an opportunity to really talk about what their income is, what their order should be, and if there's ways that we can negotiate for what those payments might be that are consistent with the guidelines that are provided to us by the state of California. In that, we can begin to, if there are people who are looking for work, are able to identify work, have work lined up, we are more than willing to negotiate license releases for very nominal, very minimal amount. And each amount is different depending on the circumstances and how frequently, their cooperation along the way.
Any other comments?
I can add to that a little bit.
Thank you.
In terms of the legal piece, I'm Jeff Shore, the Chief Attorney for the department. My last name is spelled S-C-H-R-O-E-R. So if we have a promise of employment from an employer and they provide us a letter, that would be one way to negotiate the license release, to allow them to then go through the employment process, get the job, and then move forward with their employment.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Actually, no.
Great.
Hi, this is Tracy Keith again.
Hi.
That needs to be on record.
Thank you.
But one other big barrier that I see is that our technicians might be residents of Kern County, but they travel a lot.
Right.
And so oftentimes I hear, oh, that may have gone to my home address, but they haven't been at home for 6 weeks or 2 months because they're working on projects across the country. So that would be another issue that occurred. And I was just wondering if there is any way, I saw the login, the account login,
Right.
which looks like a great idea. But also, does the agency also email non-custodial parents as well to let them know that there's an issue?
Great, that's a really great question. We email periodically, but probably not enough. We're still trying to understand, how people want to be communicated with and the best way to do that. So that might be something that we want to consider more so in the future.
In fact, with regards to that, when I was meeting with Elizabeth Chavez, who's the director, as well as Stacy, one of the things that we use at Employers Training Resources, Career Hub, and we've found that to be extremely beneficial because most individuals don't look at emails anymore. It's kind of the old way of doing things amazing, but they look at text. And so we made the suggestion. The problem is that the state, from what I understand, because of confidentiality, will not allow them to text information out. And I think that would go a long way in order to be able to communicate with individuals, because most people will look at their text but may not look at their emails.
That's a really great point, and we'll address that here in a little bit. Thank you.
Any other comments? How about one other?
Sure.
And that is with the political climate that we have today, in that individuals may feel who are not citizens of the United States may feel inhibited to go into your facility or any governmental facility to get assistance because of the fact that they may feel like that they'll get deported. How do you guys handle that?
We try to, we'll address that here in a little bit too, but you make a really great point about, for multiple reasons, people have been very challenged with coming into the Department of Child Support Services. So we have been a part, the department was originally created, we were part of the district attorney's office. Many years ago, we were part of the district attorney's office and had the full weight of the district attorney's office as the enforcement agency for your child support orders. In that program, there were a lot of enforcement techniques that were just different. It wasn't all that long ago in which people may have been arrested in our organization for coming in for non-child support related issues. That history that we have is really difficult to overcome. In 2000, we separated from the district attorney's office and we're the Child Support Services Department. And we are really rebranding ourselves as an organization of inclusion, of one that is engaging and educating customers along the way for their child support order. Because the child support orders isn't ours, it's the family's child support order. And the more that we can engage and encourage and educate people along the way about how the orders obtained, their process in it, what their options are, how we can facilitate them getting an appropriate order, then the better off that family is, because we are about trying to provide those consistent monthly child support payments for that family. And it's in the best interest of both the custodial parent and the non-custodial parent that we do that right. There are times in which we have to enforce orders, but it's an important part of our job. How we go about doing that, educating people along the way becomes really important. So one of the reasons it's an opportunity for us as we move into a new building, that we get an opportunity really to have a standalone building of the Department of Child Support Services separated from the district attorney's office. So I would say there's a lot of different reasons why people don't want to come in into our office, and we're really trying to rebrand ourselves, not just in Kern County, but at the state level, as well as nationally as well. Because when you look at fatherhood programs, and there's a lot of other programs trying to bring both parents into the establishment of their order.
Any other comments? Casey?
Thank you. So the next part of the workforce education programs partnership was to explain the obstacles to providing services to the child support program, and some of that's going to be repetitive of what we just talked about, but that we can go into it a bit more detail. One of them is texting is a common avenue. As our non-custodial parents are getting younger and technology is becoming more active, I have an 87-year-old grandfather who has a cell phone. So it's people of all ages have cell phones and use them in different ways. And so being able to text is a really important way to communicate with people nationwide and would solve some of the issues that we had talked about. Currently, it is state prohibited, as Michael had mentioned, and there's a couple reasons for that, as the state is really working with the federal government as to what our responsibilities are in this process. Not all of our customers wanted our services. So normally when you sign up with an organization and you provide them with your phone number, you've given them your phone number because that's how you want to be communicated with. As mentioned earlier, we have custodial and non-custodial parents, and they may not have actually signed up for our services. And now we have your phone number and we start texting. There's some implications with that. What if there's charges associated with that text message? And so there's some legal issues that need to be considered before that we're able to take that responsibility, use that communication tool. In addition, we know that families have lots of cell phones in their name. So I have several cell phones in my name. It's not necessarily mine. My child's got one, my husband's got one. So if that number is what we have for you and we begin to text you at that number, have we then disclosed information about you, confidential information that could be violating your confidentiality? So So while we really do recognize that texting is a great opportunity to reach many, many people, there are some obstacles that the state is considering, and we are hoping in the future the state can come to a resolution and give us some parameters about how and when we can use that, because we do think it's an opportunity for us that to communicate with people at the time and place that serves them best. So confidentiality, another obstacle that we see with being able to partner with other agencies is because we know we're subject matter experts in child support, and everybody else has their own level of subject matter expertise in the areas in which they are. And being able to provide services to customers is really a holistic approach. Child support has an obstacle of really extremely rigid confidentiality rules. We fall under the IRS rules for confidentiality, which makes it difficult sometimes in some of the partnerships and being able to have one-stop services in which all the information is shared with all of the community partners. We can take your information, but we can't we can't actually share it as frequently as we would like, even though we're serving the same customers. Those rules are very rigid and pretty strict, and we want it serves to protect the families that we're serving, but also can be a challenge in working with other organizations who are much more free in being able to share that information. Lastly, and the third one was fear, apprehension, and distrust of the department. Some of the historical issues that we had talked about previously continue. And another aspect is that the custodial parents that we serve as well, 83% of our families receive our services because they applied for services at the local human services. So they're receiving TANF benefits from the department there. They also may not have necessarily wanted our services, but it was a requirement to be able to get on the benefits that they need to support their families. The distrust doesn't necessarily only happen with the non-custodial parents. It can happen with the custodial parents as well, who may be concerned about what's going to happen to my child's father in this instance. What's going to happen? So they may also be leery of being able to provide us with some of the information that they may have readily available to them from that perspective. In addition, it's a mandatory obligation. Because some of our customers didn't necessarily want our services, it can feel like something that's happening to them, not something that's happening for them. Can feel like something that they're not a part of. So we work really hard at the department to reach out to customers, to let them know what their options are, to educate them about the process. And that is a barrier that we know that we are having to overcome with all of our customers. So those were 3 of the ones that we had identified as obstacles. Are there any others that you might think that you've experienced with either your customers or the people that you work with, the non-custodial parents?
I used to work in client services, which is basically Luanne Santos Employers Training Resource, America's Job Center.
Thank you.
I used to work in the intake division of Employers Training Resource, and I know we have a lot of customers that come in that want to go to training, and one of the things that they need is actually a driver's license.
Right.
So I know you mentioned about that letter, the promise of employment. Do you have any other way around where they can maybe get a restricted license to go to training or to job search? Are you doing any methods where you're informing the public? Because I know that's been an issue with a number of customers. It's like, I need to be able to get a job. I can't get a job because I need my license.
Right. I'm glad you're bringing that, because I think that's a really great point. So one of the great opportunities that we get to have with Employers Training Resource, America's Job Center in particular, where we recognize that that's a problem. So as people are looking for jobs, their license is suspended because they haven't been paying their child support. We don't know what their situations and what's happening in their lives, so they have a child support obligation that they're required to pay on. They work with America's Job Center. They are going through a training program. Their license is suspended. Maybe they're able to get a job, maybe they're not. So that becomes a challenge for people because their license is suspended. And employers are not necessarily willing that you have to have a license in order to work. In addition to that, I think you'll be excited because we're going to talk about some plans where we'll insert ourselves through this partnership earlier in the process so people are more aware of what is happening. We get an opportunity to talk to those non-custodial parents at the very beginning. And as they are participating in these job services, that we're able to let that be one less barrier for them. In addition to that, we know as non-custodial parents then get a job that they may not necessarily understand the impacts of child support. So then when they are employed and they come on board and then child support is now garnishing wages, that they've planned for a certain dollar amount and now their wages are less than what they expected. And for some employers, we know that they then leave because why am I working? Because I'm not getting the amount that I thought I was going to get. Makes it really difficult for employers too. So we're really excited about our partnership because it gives us an opportunity to educate our non-custodial parents early in the process so that way they are aware that we can reduce the barriers that they have to get employment and that they're aware of what is going to happen and how child support will work and once they get a job. So then they can budget around what is actually going to happen, and that's not a surprise for them in the future.
Any other comments?
So let's move on to the plans. So in this particular, one of the questions we were asked was describe how local partners, including LCSAs, that's the local Department of Child Support Services, county human service agencies, local boards, community colleges, adult education providers, CBOs, social enterprise, and other stakeholders will braid resources and coordinate service delivery. And that's where we get to talk about what we're going to be doing in the future. One of the first things that we're getting ready to do is work with our courts. In fact, Jeff here, who spoke earlier, is working closely with the courts currently to encourage non-custodial parents to seek work through the court, through America's Job Center, to actually have it as a requirement for them to work. So as non-custodial parents may have some barriers and challenges about their training, about what it is that they need, instead of encouraging them to look for work, seek out the resources, and if necessary, through a court order to do that. In addition, we're working with ETR to install video conferencing kiosks at the America's Job Centers, which will give us an opportunity to provide face-to-face, although through video conferencing face-to-face, and have a discussion with our non-custodial parents about educating them about child support, reducing the barriers, and for those non-custodial parents who are cooperating and participating in the job search, then we can eliminate the driver's license as a barrier for them to seek employment. We'll also be working to help refer non-custodial parents who are eligible for the EPIC program between the ages of 18 and 24 years old. And so we're able to target our non-custodial parents of the younger generation to that program, and so they can seek services in that way as well. We also had a conversation with the Department of Human Services to gain greater access to the outlying communities. The Department of Human Services is in 8 different stations in 8 different locations throughout Kern. Having access through video conferencing will provide more opportunities for us to be in those outlying communities a little bit more consistently than we are now. So we're really happy to be able to extend that those services in those areas. And then we are always willing to share our child support information to anybody who will hear us. So we go out into the community and try to share our information with organizations who serve our shared customers. So if there are partners out there who would like information about child support, we really understand that we can say how great the Department of Child Support Services is all we want, but it really is the partners who have built trust with the community to share our information. And it's when you, who have trust with the community already, have that information and can share our information, we know that will help to begin to build trust with our non-custodial parents, and we think that's really important. So the more that we can share and educate our information, to anybody who will listen, we're happy to do that. Are there any other partnerships that we should explore?
I was Sophia Morales, Marshall. I was wondering if there's a group you have to serve veterans only, specifically for veterans?
Specifically for veterans? We work with veterans, and we don't necessarily have child support officers specifically for veterans, but we help veterans in all different ways. So
that's when we would, working for ED, we have staff who work specifically with veterans, so we could communicate.
That would be great.
Contact,
Absolutely. That would be really great that we can build that partnership.
That would be beginning.
Perfect. Thank you.
So, do you have literature relative, because once we install the kiosk, which would be a great opportunity for the HACCs.
Right.
But do you have literature that specifically deals with the licensing issue? Because that way that individuals can, our staff can provide that to individuals during intake.
Great, that's a great question. The answer to that is yes. We have literature on all sorts of information that we would share with you. If you're able to display that information in any way, that would be great, because I think that it would help to enhance and people have something for someone to take with them. So we do have information about the license release and the impacts of that, the importance of working with the Department of Child Support Services, the type of information that we need to know in order to best serve our non-custodial parents. So I think that would be really great to be able to provide that information.
Any other comments? It's a tough audience.
It's okay. So, and then lastly, what incentives and tools could we provide to our non-custodial parents to continue to encourage them to engage in workforce development and training programs? Is there anything else that you see that we could do that could help? Yes.
I was talking to some ladies here tonight, and I think if you'd like to bring your staff to the AJCC and have them oriented to the location and the services there, if you'd like, we can provide specific orientation just for your staff and have people available to show them around.
Absolutely, that would be great.
There's a lab available to write your resume. People come in there for various things, disability workshops. There's also the job club.
Great.
So if you're not oriented yet, that would be the place to start.
I think that would be really important as we begin to bring our video conferencing equipment into the agencies, for your staff to know, who are we, what are we there for, how can we help. Some of the same information that is at the staff level, who is really going to be working so closely with the non-custodial parent, to know when should I refer someone to this kiosk and when shouldn't I, and how will I sell it? How will they benefit from that? In addition to that, having your information in our office, we have community development opportunities where we bring in community partners into our office to educate our staff. In that same way, we recognize that we can't know everything. So we really do try to educate our staff on the available resources that are county-wide. So when people come in with a barrier, we can refer them also. So having that cross-sharing of information at one level is great, but at the staff level is critical in helping our families.
I'm going to build based on what Sophia had mentioned.
Great.
So one of the things that we have at America's Job Center is actually Job Squad every Thursday. So we partner with different agencies and departments where someone from your organization can speak on behalf of the services that are available.
Great.
Because it's open to the general public who are looking for employment.
Great.
And that are resources.
Great.
So that would be a good tool for you to utilize.
That would be, thank you.
That may even go towards orientation. It would be a good spot for that as well.
So Teresa had talked with the employers training resource as well, and when we're talking about incentives and tools that we could provide to non-custodial parents to promote their participation in workforce development and training programs, I'm wondering if our agencies couldn't provide some assistance in the way of perhaps a career resource training just for your folks. Like if you have people who are underemployed or not employed at all, and we had staff come out and talk about what training opportunities and what wage increases they could expect if they were to participate in some of these things, to get them a little bit more excited about what the opportunities are within America's Job Center.
Yeah, that would be great, having like a non-custodial parent workshop about, absolutely, to provide that information.
Any other comments?
Okay. Thank you so much. There are information, Michael Salt's information, and then my information's on there as well. So if you have questions as you leave, or if you have questions later on as you've had a chance to think about it, or opportunities, different ways in which you can think we can partner together, we would be really happy and would love to have that information. And we're looking forward to updating our plan and providing that. So, and looking for future partners as well.
Or even later on, if you come up with a question that you want answered and that
Absolutely.
you think of today, please feel free to email us, and I'll have Stacy answer the question. No, so we really appreciate you coming today. No one's touched the food, so now that we've finished, you can feel free to bring some home with you so that way it doesn't go to waste. But thank you